Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Remote No Pressure podcast. I'm so glad that you're with us for another week and another episode. I'm very happy to present you guys with this episode because we have with us award-winning fly angler Anita Coulton from Cross Current Guide Service, and she was just a great guest, very informative and just a very interesting guest with a great story. You will not be disappointed. Thank you again so much for listening. Welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, we have Anita Coulton. Thank you very much for joining us, Anita.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm very, very honored that you spent some time with us. Now, you recently won an award in New Jersey. Am I right?
I did. I won the New Jersey Fly Fisherman of the Year award.
Now, question is, are they going to change the name of that, or are they going to leave?
I'd kind of like them to change the name of that. I'm kind of, leaning towards the Fly Angler of the Year. I think would be a little bit more suiting. Since 2 years ago, another female won it by the name of Sue Reed. She was also representing Casting for Recovery, and she took the top spot. So now that two women have won the award, maybe they'll think about changing that.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, each TU chapter, Trout Unlimited chapter, sends someone, and then someone goes to represent Casting for Recovery. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you were representing Casting for Recovery.
I was honored to represent Casting for Recovery this year. They asked me at the New Jersey retreat for Casting for Recovery, and I jumped at the chance. I was thrilled to be able to represent them and to ultimately be able to win the contest for them. So it was quite an honor.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, it had to be pretty humbling to be asked to do that for them. Can you tell me a little bit about your role with Casting for Recovery and what you've done with them?
Absolutely. I've been involved with them for probably 8 years now. I started as a river helper, and by a river helper, I just was there on Sunday, helping a participant as she put her skills to the test, actually on the water, and it was quite a thrill. And then the next year they asked me back to help out with the fly fishing instruction. And so I've been involved on and off for probably about 8 years. And it's an amazing organization. If you don't know about it, you need to know about it. Unfortunately, I think all of us have been touched in some way by breast cancer. So what this organization does for women in 3 days is it's fantastic.
Wow. And speaking of breast cancer and just the healthcare field, now you're also a physical therapist. Am I correct?
Yes, physical therapist assistant. I work at Dreyer Physical Therapy in Sparta. So I do that Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, a fly fishing guide.
Wow. Now, how did I know according to your bio, you've got about 20 years or more under your belt fly fishing, and you're only 25 years old. So I don't know how the math works on that. No, but seriously, how did you get into fly fishing? Can you tell us the story on how you ended up doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up on a farm as a little girl. My dad was an avid outdoorsman, and so any chance he took, he would get us outside. He would take us fishing. I was the youngest child, so he had all girls. He wanted boys, so he kind of raised his girls like boys, and it was a great way to grow up. So I grew up hunting and fishing with him as much as I could, and fishing was definitely a love of his. And so he just kind of took us every chance he got, and that's kind of how I got the love of fishing. And when I went to college, when I got older, I kind of got away from it a little bit. As people do, social stuff and academics and other things take over. And then I just got back into it one time. I actually was dating a guy who was a fisherman, and I said, "Hey, I remember how to do this," and it just kind of went from there. Probably about 90, I think it was about 97. I went to the Orvis Fly Fishing School up in Lake Placid, and I spent 2 days learning how to fly fish. and that was it for me. I was completely hooked. No pun intended.
That's a pretty common story. So you grew up fishing on spinning gear and then you made the transition to flies.
Yep. Yeah, my dad, every now and again when he would take us out fishing, he would get his fly rod out. And I remember even at a very young age, probably 3 or 4, sitting on the bank and watching him cast this fly rod, and just remembering like how amazing it was to watch someone with that, and just thinking someday I'd like to be able to do that. And yeah, look at me now. So it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Now, what made you decide to start guiding people?
Oh, that's a great question. So as I got more involved with fly fishing, I started to compete. Um, I compete on Team Freestone. We're the top ranked team in North America, and so I started competing, and I started doing things to help my TU chapter. And we had this women's initiative event, and I was asked to help out at it, so I did. And I had a lady there who I could tell she wanted to get in the water, but she was a little reluctant. And so I went over and I started talking to her, and turns out she had just had surgery for breast cancer. And she said she didn't feel real comfortable getting in the water because she felt like, she might fall. So I helped her that day, and helped her catch her very first fish on a fly rod, which was very special for her. And then, like later on, I was talking to her husband. He's like, "Are you a guide?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Well, you should be." And so, fast forward about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, and I was at another event, and people had said things that were very similar to that. They're like, "Well, why aren't you a guide?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And so I gave it some thought, and I'm like, "Well, maybe I should do this. Like, maybe, because I love people, I love teaching." And so that was it. I went to guide school. I learned how to guide. I got all my licenses. So yeah, so it was actually just other people's encouragement that kind of prompted me to go into guiding. And I'm so glad I did, though, because I love it. I love teaching people. I love watching them catch fish. It's fantastic.
Now, the reason I reach out to you, Joe DeMalderis, who's been on the podcast before, he recommended and said, "Hey, you need to reach out to Anita. She's got a great story." How did you end up working with Joe?
Oh, that's another great question. First off, I'm the luckiest girl in the world to be working with Joe. I mean, he has taught me so much I've only really guided with him one season now, but I have learned more in one season from him than, I mean, I could ever even imagine.
Wow.
Um, so when I went to guide school, I learned how to row a drift boat. I went out to Montana with real women, learned under the tutelage of Lorianne Murphy, who's wonderful, one of the top female guides anywhere. And so when I came back, I obviously didn't have a boat. And so I thought, well, I had a lot of questions because I knew I wanted to guide on the Delaware, but I didn't know how to get started. So I reached out to Joe, and it was more just to bounce some ideas off of him, because he's a legend on the Delaware. The D in Joe D stands for Delaware. I don't know if you knew that, but it's pretty much his river. So reached out to him, and he was very helpful. And he actually found me my boat, my very first boat. So started working with him, and then ultimately started guiding for him. So it's been wonderful.
Wow, that's a great story. And do you find it pretty common? I mean, the fact that Joe was so willing to reach out to you. I mean, do you find that as a pretty common trait in the fly fishing community?
You do. I think it's a small group of people, and I think everyone is genuinely out to help everybody. There's people are people, so you're going to get your select few that that maybe keep to themselves, or, like there's, it just is what it is. But for the most part, everyone that I've met, especially up there on the river, has been fantastic. Everyone's been helpful, just go out of their way. And even being a female, you kind of you go into it a little bit nervous, and but I had a great first season. It was everything I thought it would be, and 10 times more. So
Wow, that's so awesome to hear. Now there's quite a few women that listen to the podcast. Um, and some of them may be moms, or and I know you can relate to that. I think Joe said you were a mom as well.
I am.
And it's a stressful thing working, raising kids, doing this daily grind. What would you say to encourage women to take up the sport? Or even men,
Well,
because men's very stressful too, but in particular women. What would you tell them?
I think as women, we're constantly doing things for other people, and I think we're wired that way. I know I am. We do and do and do, and I think fly fishing is a way. I know it is for me to just kind of unplug from everything. And a lot of days we go out, it's not about catching fish. It's about the whole experience. It's about seeing those places where fish live. And sometimes you get out there and you don't realize how stressed and how crazy life is until you get on the water and you realize, you know what? This is wonderful. This is exactly what I needed. So it's not always about the fishing. And certainly fishing is a bonus. Catching a fish, even better. Um, but I think as women, we get so caught up in helping other people that we forget to take that time for ourselves. And I think that's one of the things that brings me the most enjoyment, is seeing the expression on people's faces when they realize it really is. You need to get out there.
That's great, Anita. That's exactly what we say here on the podcast. I mean, everything that you're saying totally aligns with our philosophy about self-care. Now, your background in physical therapy, your background in helping people in that way, what percentage? I know sometimes if there's like a car accident or and things like that, but what percentage of injuries, say shoulder issues or back or neck issues, and forgive me if you may not know this. If not, we'll just edit it out or whatever. But I'm curious to know how stress, if we don't take care of ourselves, that self care part of our life, how does that affect our physical bodies?
Oh, it absolutely does. When you look at um, stress and its effect on the body, we are a society that we just go, go, go.
Mm,
And one of the things that um, that will just go away is, first off, our physical health. And I see it every day, but whether it be back issues, shoulder issues, just poor posture issues. I work in orthopedic outpatient, so we see a lot of that. We see a lot of chronic overuse things, and just from a sedentary lifestyle, from sitting too long. Um, and then stress on the body is, I think, even more so, because that leads to other things. So it's just it's a terrible downward spiral that unfortunately is all too common.
do you have any stories or examples from guiding or taking? I know you mentioned someone with casting for recovery, but any other stories in particular, maybe a customer of yours, or someone that that took up fly fishing, and it really helped them manage stress, or you saw a difference in their life?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of our clients on the Delaware are people that work, say, in New York City. So you talk about two opposite ends of the spectrum.
Wow.
You take the hustle and bustle of New York City, um, and it's just the pace and the tone is just so fast forward. Um, and then you slow somebody down and you put them in a drift boat for a day, It's the transformation is amazing,
Mm.
and those people need that. They really do. Because I mean, I grew up on a farm, but I couldn't imagine living that lifestyle. And a lot of people are living that Monday through Friday, or even 7 days a week. So to have them stop and to just kind of give that little self check, and that's self care. Just unplug, leave your phone in the truck. Don't even bring it.
Right.
And it's great. It's great. And I think we have that experience to offer people. And I think people need that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now you had mentioned, you're always, a lot of times you're teaching people, you're guiding, you're doing things for other people. When do you get out on the river by yourself?
I do every chance I get. um it's few and far between. But if I can grab a couple hours to myself, I certainly do take advantage of that. But even just rowing a boat is, for me, it's total therapy. And teaching and watching someone get into one of those Delaware fish is just, to me, it's that's not work at all. I have the best weekend job in the world.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, what do your boys think about you fishing? Are they fishing at all with you, or are they picking up the sport?
Yeah, well, I have a boy and a girl,
Okay.
and my son is 12, and I took him out this past year on the boat, and he just loved it. Um, his attention span is much like a puppy. He's kind of all over the place, but he liked to row the boat. He fished. He played in the water. So I think at that age you have to keep it fun,
Right.
and we certainly go out and we have a ball. My daughter's 15, and she's into some high school stuff right now, so her time is a little limited. But I'm sure as they grow, I think they see what I do, and hopefully I'm instilling a good work ethic in them, and
Hmm.
teaching them that you can do whatever you want to do. Don't ever let anyone tell you you can't. And but they're great kids, great kids.
Now, you made a statement that said you can do whatever you want to do. Don't let anyone hold you back. Have you always been that way? Have you always had that mindset?
I think I have. I don't ever remember not having it.
Hmm.
Um, at a very young age, I remember this was probably, I think I was maybe 10, and I was watching the Olympics on television, and I remember seeing Bonnie Blair skate the 500 meter, and she won. And I remember turning around to my mom and saying, "I'm going to do that." And she kind of chuckled, and she's like, "Okay." Well, I ended up being an Olympic hopeful in short track speed skating. And I not only did that, I actually skated with Bonnie Blair.
Wow.
So my mom learned very early that if I say I'm going to do something, and I don't know where that work ethic came from. I honestly don't. But I've always been a goal setter, and I just I would just enjoy working towards something. And so I usually, I'm very goal oriented. So when I accomplish a goal, then I usually set another one.
That's great. Sometimes it seems like a lot of people don't come to the conclusion that nothing can hold you back until they're older. Maybe they live under their parents' thumb, or there's all kinds of things we're told growing up, and like, I can't do that. And some people, like yourself, are extremely driven and just like, screw everybody, I'm just gonna do what I want to do, and I'm gonna make a goal, I want to do it. So kudos to you. So but yeah, that's one of the things that we really value on our podcast is going toward those dreams, going toward those things that you want to accomplish, and setting those goals. Can you go through with us a little bit about how you set goals, Anita? Or is this like do you have a a process that you go through to set goals and reach them, or do you kind of like get envision something and then go there, or how do you get to those goals and reach those, Anita?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, um, with fishing and guiding, for me, it's just a thought in my head, and it just kind of like, you know, goes around my head for a little bit, and I think about it, and then I don't know, it's just like all of a sudden, I just come up with something, and sometimes it's just going on my laptop and looking around and um, just figuring out what you really want to do. For me, I mean, fly fishing has always been a passion of mine. So, if I can find a way to help other people and give people the great experience and introduce them to the fishery at the Delaware, that's a win-win for me. I've always been that people person. Um, so, in terms of setting goals, I don't know. I mean, I just kind of I come up with something and I just kind of like think about it for a while, and then I'm just like, you know what? I think that's good. I'm just going to work towards that. But something that has always, motivated me is just having that ability to help people and to do something that you really, really want to do. And no matter what people say, if you have something that you really want to do, for me, one of the biggest motivators is someone telling me I can't. I'm just like, I'm just that person that just fuels me.
Hmm.
Um, so, it's just finding that dream and just, putting it down on paper if you need to, and just saying, you know what, name it and claim it. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to find a way. Sometimes I don't even know how, but things work out. When you pursue them, you'll find that they just find a way to work out.
Wow.
So,
Are you a Tom Petty fan by any chance?
I listen to him. I don't know that I'm a fan, but I like his music.
Yeah, he's got this song called "Running Down a Dream," and
Oh yeah,
yeah, so what you're saying is getting me really fired up, and I can like hear that song in the background. Just got the radio playing. Just running down this dream. I'm thinking of something really big, and I could totally see why Joe hired you. I mean, did you have an opportunity to listen to his episode on our podcast?
I
By
have
any
not yet, but I definitely intend to do that.
Yeah, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but his episode's called King of the Upper Delaware. It was actually episodes. Our first episode was with Joe D. Malderis, and he tells a story about how he wanted to become a fishing guide, and he was had a very successful financial practice, and his mom was like, I always knew you'd be a guide, and his dad said you should go see a shrink,
Yeah, exactly.
and he tells a story, and it's kind of like it's pretty much exactly what you're saying. Here you are as physical therapist, and you're living life, you're doing your thing, and it just comes naturally out of you, the teaching. And yeah, you know what, being a guide would be awesome, and you don't just kind of halfway do it. I mean, you go off to school, you do it right. So kudos to you and all that you're doing. One more question for you. The future of the fly fishing industry. We talked we've had a couple females on the podcast, and one of them said, yeah, when I went and bought waders, they were men's waders. They didn't even have female waders, but now they do, and things are catching on. Where do you see the future of the fly fishing and women in the fly fishing industry, or in fly fishing in general?
Oh, that's a great question. I'll tell you what, there is a huge momentum push right now for women to get involved with this sport. Orvis, just one company who's done an amazing job with women's equipment, women's waders, boots, jackets, everything that is, designed to keep you out on the water. And it fits. I mean, back when I got started, I had to wear men's waders. A lot of the stuff was too big. And now, I mean, you get a lot of companies that are manufacturing the women's stuff, and it is wonderful. So, not only, everything, rods, I mean, you name it, it's out there for you. And I mean, it's wonderful to have stuff that fits and that functions and, keeps you on the water. And it's a great time to be a woman on the water. Orvis right now has their program. It's called 50/50 by 2020. And what they're looking to do is to have 50% fly fishing population be female by the year 2020.
Mm,
And they are well on their way to doing that. You're seeing a lot more women's fly fishing clubs pop up.
mm.
Um, and the momentum shift is definitely leaning in our direction. So, great time for women to be on the water, great time to learn, great time to just get out and see what this sport has to offer. And it's wonderful. I love it.
Wow, you get me so excited. If someone wanted to hire you as a guide or wanted to get in contact with you, Anita, what would they need to do to get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can actually look on our website. Our The name of our service is Cross Current Guide Service. We're definitely online. crosscurrentguideservice.com. They can also call me. My cell phone is 201-602-8248.
Okay, and we'll put that up along with links as well on the show notes and on our blog on our page there. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Anita. Thank you for sharing your time with our
Thanks for
podcast.
the opportunity. You guys are this has been very nice, very nice. So
Very cool.
good time.
All right, well, have a great night.
All right, thanks again.
Well, thank you, Anita, and thank you for listening to the Remote No Pressure podcast. If you haven't already, go to our website at remotenopressure.com and sign up for our mailing list. And also, whatever platform, whether it be iTunes or Google Play or whatever, wherever you're listening to this podcast, if you could just leave us a review, we'd really appreciate that. And until next time, go fishing.